Hello, neighbor. I'm Anna Elizabeth from the Five Facets of Healing. We are here to help you turn struggle into success and heartache into healing, no matter the adversity you're facing. Within this global COVID pandemic, you are being challenged across all of your five facets, your entire being. We're here to help provide some simple tips and strategies from people and industries across all areas that you can imagine to help you find a little bit of peace and calm in what you're facing. And I'm honored today to introduce to you a good friend, our guest, Mary Schrock. Mary, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do? And thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, Anna. My name is Mary Schrock, and I'm a social worker at the Falk Cancer Center in Elmira, New York. I've been at the Cancer Center for 2 years full-time. Prior to that, I was a social worker in the hospital, which is connected to the Cancer Center, for 30 years total. I celebrated my 30-year anniversary working at the Arna Ogden Medical Center. So I'm technically employed by the hospital, but placed in the Cancer Center.
So we know that right now hospitals are being faced with many challenges to, one, accommodate the COVID patients and then the non-COVID patients. There's so many things that patients and people are facing all over. What are some of the challenges that you folks are experiencing in the Cancer Treatment Center?
Well, we've made some changes to be able to screen people coming in and to make sure that exposure is low, and because it's a very vulnerable population, obviously. So we are currently not permitting any additional people to come in other than the patient, which has made for challenges. The information that we provide when you're talking to the physician, the oncologist, and your anxiety is up, you can't always hear all that information. And we always had previously encouraged people to bring someone in with them so that they could hear the information. And now that person is not permitted. And I think what some people don't realize is that they can always have that person join by phone and put it on speaker. And we don't see enough of that. I think people are conscientious, or I don't really know what it is, because we've said, listen, when you come in for your appointment, get your daughter on the phone. So when the doctor comes in, your daughter's on the phone and can listen in, and can ask questions. And I think that people need to know that that's very acceptable. That is a very reasonable and encouraged thing to do. We do it especially if you are a new patient, or you're getting scan results back. Those appointments, we really want to have somebody listening as well on the phone and encourage those questions.
I know just from my own personal experiences and with the people that I've talked with throughout the years, when you are faced with some life challenge, you kind of do go into shock and brain fog, and it's harder to remember those things. And as you say, to hear, and you may hear it, but how you process it is completely different, because your body and your mind really are someplace else. So those support people are huge. And that's a great tip about calling in. And I think part of it could be that people are subconscious. Part of it could be that people don't know that that's available, and part of it might be that it's just not traditional, and sometimes people have a hard time with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that people are like, well, the doctor came in, I didn't have a chance to get somebody on the phone. And all they need to say is, can you hold on a second? Just hold on a second, I want to get my daughter on the phone. Absolutely, they'll hold on. Um, so, and I think that sometimes we've had, well, people actually, we had somebody yesterday that we kept saying, do you want, you're a new patient, do you want to get somebody on the phone? No, no, that's okay, I'll tell them. Um, and I think that they wanted to hear the news first before they shared that with somebody. But then, when we asked them, hey, tell us what we said so we can be sure that you understood it, that's when they realized, I guess I really didn't get all of it.
Mm.
And so we had to review that again. So while you think up front, oh, no, I'm fine, I'll be able to get it and I'll tell them, it's afterwards that you realize, wow, I wasn't able to do that. So I think some of it is a pride for the person too,
And,
like,
and everybody is different. It's one of the fundamental principles of what we do at the 5 Facets of Healing, is recognizing that what people bring to the table across their entire academic, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual sides of the self creates a unique thing for them. I mean, it truly is unique, and what might work for one person is so different from another. And I know oftentimes I've had friends who have said, oh, I don't want to put you out. And it's like, one of the things I'm always saying is, you didn't ask, I offered. And then I also say, I don't do things that I don't want to do. I mean, I'm constantly telling them that and to try to make a joke out of it. And yet that is one of the very real things, is people don't want to put somebody out. And when you're doing it in person, you kind of have that person with you, and yet, well, they might be eating breakfast, or they might be, so to do a phone, I might interrupt something, as opposed to if they're just there with me, then I know I'm not interrupting them. So there's so many layers to that. Now, one of the things that you said made me wonder, so in addition to a phone call, in this world of social distancing right now, these virtual meetings have become very important. It really creates that personal element and connection in the absence of being able to actually be in person. So would the doctors allow virtual meetings, FaceTime meetings, with that person? Obviously,
yeah,
you can set up a Zoom.
it's not a question of breaching confidentiality, because I can bring anybody I want to my appointment, and the physician is free to talk about anything in front of that person, because by my bringing them, it's understood that I wish to share that information with them.
Okay.
So
So
that's
that
a really important thing to know, that as long as you invite them, anybody can come, and we
so
again encourage that.
yeah, so FaceTime or something like that would be
And
um,
and honestly, it does save time for the physician versus, if you have a conversation with a patient and their family who are on the phone, and the iPhones now can have multiple people join. You can do FaceTime so that actually you can see who you're talking to, so that's welcome. But then the family gets an opportunity to ask questions, versus individually the families call afterwards saying, my mother didn't understand what you were saying. And I think what people don't realize either is our physicians are, one in particular wears a mask. So it's doubly hard to, number one, understand the conversation, and two, just even be able to hear what's being said, because they're speaking under a mask and a shield. So
and a shield, yeah, which makes sense. And so
a
when we're
mask,
already
shield,
in that
accent.
when we're in that brain fog, not only is our brain function lower, all of our senses are, the auditory, how fast we process things. So yeah, I can imagine that would be doubly complicated. Now, what about recording? So if you have that person say, who's like, nope, nope, I'm not gonna bring somebody, I'm fine, I'm good. Could they record the session. I know, like with my iPhone, I have an audio recorder app that where you, because when you do the video, even though it's just audio, it takes up a lot more space. And they have a free app where you can put an audio recorder on your phone. Could the patient record the conversation and that they could take back and share with people that they wanted?
They would need to make sure that the physician was okay with that.
Was okay. So as long as they asked ahead of time and then set that up, so it kind of met those HIPAA, all of that HIPAA stuff, and the privacy with the doctor and.
Right. Well, not as much as HIPAA, because again, I can share any information I want, but some physicians are a little more sensitive to being tape recorded.
Yeah, well, and certainly I can.
The other tip I would say is utilize social work. We have families, when a patient comes in and the staff say, and I see people in infusion, and the nurse goes in and talks to patients, and the physician is talking with patients, and the staff are, how are you doing? I'm fine. Do you have everything you need? Are things going well at home? Uh-huh. Okay. But family add a whole nother layer to that, right? So I love, if family come in and the patient is there, we can, again, exchange anything. If family call, I may not be able to exchange information on the patient unless I have a release, but I can listen to everything. So they may say, my mom, she may say she's doing well, but she's having a hard time getting around, or she's not eating like she should be, and we're concerned about that, or whatever it may be. We can hear that and address it.
It gives you a starting point to have further dialogue with your patient.
We do tend to say, no, I'm fine. Yeah. Are you able to give everything? My daughter helps me. And the daughter's saying, if she's there, Mom, we could use extra help or whatever.
Right.
They're not necessarily portraying it in a way that other family members see it. So utilize social work. They can call in, family can call in, again, for social work or for the nurse to just say, I have these concerns. So that's really helpful, because, in a different world, when they could be in there at the bedside or in the appointment or infusion chair, they could offer that information. And now we just have to rely on.
Now it's a little harder, right? Because they're not there. It might take a little more effort. And one of the things you said about people saying I'm fine when you ask the questions, it makes me think of one of the greatest gifts that I received after my son died. And for viewers who are watching, that's part of what put me on this path to helping others heal and find healing in whatever they're experiencing, was the death of my child. But after I went back to work, I had one of our long-term customers come in, and she knew I was pregnant, but she didn't know that I had died, or that my son had died. And she asked, how was the baby? Which so many of our customers did. And the only thing I knew to say to them was, I'm sorry, he didn't make it. And immediately, I'm sure you've seen this, Mary, their hands start fidgeting, and they have this just horrified look on their face, like they just want to run away. And I would reach out across the counter and I would pat their hands and I would say, it's okay. Because I think as our society, in some twisted way, we're conditioned to believe that we have to be okay. And this woman said to me, no, it's not okay. And it was years before I really recognized the profound impact of her statement. In that moment, it brought me great comfort. But as I continued to do this work and think about how I could help people heal, I realized that when we're facing any adversity, no matter what it is, whether it's the death of a child or loss of a job or not being able to support our loved one who's getting cancer treatments, it's not okay. Being shut down, as a whole world is not okay. It actually stinks. And yet we can be okay in the face of that adversity, whatever it is. We can be okay. We just need to find the unique combination of resources to help us individually.
Well,
And
I also think that defining fine. So when you say you're fine, what does that mean?
yeah,
Are you able to get a meal together? Do you have the supplies to get a meal together? A part of what I did is I called a number of patients that uh, I was particularly concerned about, and offered, because the concern is getting, going, exposing themselves and being vulnerable, going to a grocery store. We don't want them to go out and be exposed, but they may not have any other options. And so actually I offered for some of our patients to say, listen, if you don't have anybody that can go to the store for you, let me know and we can make some arrangements. And to know that they're like Walmart has senior citizen hours on Tuesdays where you can go in early, or if you go early to stores, that's a good time to get out before it's crowded. And so that's a good tip. Because that is one of our concerns, is people being able to get what they need.
So on that note too, I don't know if you're aware, but most businesses like Walmart and individual businesses now are doing either curbside pickup or delivery. My mother in California, the other state that's leading the number of confirmed cases and deaths with this COVID, she lives in California, and once a week now, because there's so much of that curbside pickup, you have to get in a queue and you're not guaranteed everything that you need. But she goes on once a week and finds the next available slot that's usually a few days out. She puts in her wish list and then she just does that every week. She pulls up, they come in and they put the stuff in her car. So literally there's no contact. They put it in her car and they leave. So for people that can do that, and I also just called Wegmans here recently. Somebody reached out to me who can't go to the grocery store, doesn't want to, and because she's immune compromised. And Wegmans is actually doing delivery as well. So some of the grocery stores, no matter where you are, and they're also doing Instacart.
Now, Instacart, just as an FYI, because I checked this out because I was so concerned. Instacart, you have to have a credit card. It can't be a gift credit card. It has to be an actual credit card.
Okay.
So to know that, that's important. You have to be able to give them a credit card to be able to use Instacart.
Okay.
It can't be a gift
card. Oh, yeah. So if somebody has a gift card.
Or it can't be a gift Jubilee card. It's got to be an actual credit card.
Okay.
So
I know Wegmans said you could order on their website. So it's possible. I don't know. I haven't checked this out. So for anybody that might want this, do some research. Wegmans said they have an app, or you can order on their website. So I'm wondering if you order on their website and you pay the Instacart fees there and you could use your credit card. I don't know, just a thought, but that's really good to know, because I know myself, I've gone to some places to order online at a restaurant and couldn't use the gift card that I had. And I was like, that's so annoying.
And for people who can't, who are really financially, things financially hurting, to know that the food pantries also, you pull up, they put products, they put groceries into your car and you leave. You don't get out, you don't touch, you don't do any of that. You pull up and they do that. And they're very conscientious about wiping the cart down after every use. Wow. So that's another thing. And with food pantry, you do get some produce, you do get some meat, and you do get canned goods. So to be aware of that, and they're, you know, around, particularly around here, the food pantries are opening up. That used to be maybe once a month that somebody could go, and now they're open up so that you can go multiple times, and that's important. That's important to know as well. And I know I've seen on television huge lines. I don't believe that that's what we're experiencing here locally, but
And where, yeah, obviously, if you're in a metropolitan area, depending, those lines may be longer, and that's true with whether you're ordering theater tickets or whatever the case may be. And so for people who are watching this globally, just know where you are, and also know that sometimes if you go to the major hotspot, you have area outlying providers of food banks or different resources who aren't as taxed, because people are going to the major hub, the more centralized. And if you just are willing to branch out a little bit further in your zone, you might have better luck to sort of spread that around.
right.
So those are really fabulous tips, Mary. And one of the things that you sort of touched on is the support people of your patients that you have, and talked about the things that they can do, calling in and talking to the social workers wherever they are. And for those people watching, I volunteer. Mary put together this amazing program at her center called Share the Love, and it's an event where people such as myself, there's hairdressers, there's manicurists and pedicurists, there's a massage practitioner, acupuncturist. They come in and for once a month, and we just volunteer our services for the patients and their support people. So if you have a cancer center that you are participating with, see if they have something like that, or ask them if they know anything in the community that can not only help you as a patient, somebody who's struggling with cancer or another disease that you need treatment for, but for your support people as well. There's
Understanding, like even for our center, we can't have those that same wonderful program is on hold,
yeah,
because of limitations going in. But one of the things I would really point out is isolation is real. I mean, that is a cancer patient once said to me, I have to remind myself all the time that right now, this minute is what I'm fighting for. Not after I get done with my treatment, not after down some point down the road, but this moment is the one I'm fighting for. And a lot of cancer patients, I've seen it happen both ways. Some say, you know, I'm used to isolation and nothing's really changed because I don't tend to go out very much. And other people are really feeling very, very isolated. And to remember that a phone call, you know, a FaceTime for people is really important, because this is the time that you have with them. And
right.
so it's really important to reach out. And I know that a lot of support people are really concerned that they don't want to expose their loved one. I don't want to go around them because I don't want to bring them something. And that fear is real, you know. But social distancing, wearing a mask, going to the front door and backing up and having that conversation. As the weather gets nicer, that'll be a little easier to do, to still come and see them.
Or one of the things that they're doing, I just love how people are getting creative and coming back to Share the Love. I appreciate you pointing that out, that, yeah, it is on hold. Where I was going with that is for people to remember that the social workers, coming back to what you said, to utilize the social workers in the facilities that you're at, because they really are connected and have a wealth of resources and creative ideas. And speaking of creative ideas, people are doing like drive-by parades. So if you have a loved one, in addition to FaceTiming with them and the phone calls, you could also say, hey, at 1 o'clock, be on your front porch. And you and a number of friends or family could drive by with signs and posters that say, we love you, dropping gifts off. I mean, it adds a little bit of fun for the day, and it breaks up the monotony, and it's a little bit different. And so all of those creative solutions
Very
help.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
very interesting
Yeah.
to do that. Actually, we had people that went by the center to show their appreciation. And so they called and said, step out. They would by the hospital and the cancer center, step out, for showing appreciation. And, you know, there were some cars that went by, and everybody was like, that was so nice. It was very uplifting, and it encourages endorphin. It raises your endorphins. And so that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So.
So there's somebody I know that lives alone that reached out and said, you know, I'm really missing physical touch. And it's so hard right now. And one of the things that they talk about is get involved in virtual events of any kind, one-on-ones with people, happy hours. They're calling it virtual happy hours. People or families are getting together and watching the same movie at the same time, or eating the same takeout meal, just in different places. And again, just the creativity is amazing. But there's studies that show that even participating in a virtual yoga or Tai Chi or dance or singing event, it actually releases, I think it's oxytocin, I don't know if you know, but those endorphins that actually bring joy, and those chemicals that happen, even though you're not face to face personally, but doing it virtually, you still get some of that same effect. So doing those things to kind of keep yourself elevated is huge, because when you're struggling with anything, a disease or some major adversity, and then you have a global pandemic, it can be magnified. So doing as much as you can every day to keep yourself elevated, proper nutrition, as you said, and so grateful to you for reaching out to those patients.
And I guess I would like to just say one more thing and end with one more thought. And that is, and I go back to, you know, a lot of what I've learned in life is through parenting. One of the things, when I was faced with a toddler who was having a temper tantrum, or a teenager who was, we were butting our heads against each other, I used to periodically, I'd be so frustrated. I don't know how I'm going to do this, or I can't get them to do this, or I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. And if I stopped and took a deep breath and said to myself, surely I am smarter than this 3-year-old, or surely I am smarter than this 17-year-old, or surely I am smarter than this COVID-19. I can find a way around this. And whether it may not be exactly like the virtual things, it's not the same as is seeing somebody in person, but it is something. And so, so when you're faced with that, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't go with my mother to the physician, or I can't see my person, they're in the hospital, or I'm not able to do this, to take a step back and a deep breath and say, surely I can figure out a way to do what I need to do to reach them. And that's where that creativity comes from. Sometimes we're just so frustrated because we only know one way, and when that's blocked, we think well, then there's no other way. But there's always another way.
There
There's always.
is. And I always say we don't know what we don't know. So if we haven't experienced something or been introduced to it, we aren't able to brainstorm those solutions because we don't have any frame of reference to as a jumping off point. And that's where programs like this that we're doing are introducing people to other things that people are trying and doing. And somebody may say, oh my gosh, I never thought about a drive-by party. I hadn't heard that's a great idea. And then they can tweak it and make it their own. So it's
Right.
just a jumping off point.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, what you say. It's I say that no problem is without a solution. And so you're right. I mean, there's always a way, and that's part of us individually figuring out what we need. So with that, Mary, I think we'll close. You've brought so much valuable information today, and we're grateful for what you and all social workers and staff,
Well,
all
thank you.
essential workers right now in hospitals, what they're doing to help keep us safe and as well as possible with whatever we're facing. So neighbor, in closing, if you have a loved one that's getting cancer treatments right now or faced with some other disease and experiencing treatments, reach out to your hospitals, reach out to the social workers. They're there to help. And like Mary, they want nothing but to help you find the peace and resolution that you need for yourself. So please reach out to those people in the best way that feels right to you. And Mary, thank you again for being with
Safe.
us today.
Be safe and healthy.
Yep. Until next time, take care, neighbor.